Okay, so for lesson 5.2, we're going to begin with a review of multiplication, of foiling in essence. You might have heard algebra teachers in the past say FOIL. What they're really saying is when you're multiplying binomials together, you'll always do distributing. First, outside, inside, last. First, outside, inside, last. So look, to get you started, 2x times x. And we're going to see this so much. 2x times x is 2x squared. And then I'll take 2x and multiply it to -7, and I'll get -14x. But I'm not done. That's my first, and that's my outside. Then we can go inside and last. Distribute the 3 to both. So 3 times x, it'd be a positive 3x. And 3 times -7, of course, would just get you a -21. And at this point, you can very quickly combine your like terms, and you will be done. -14 plus 3 is -11. And that's all you have. Now, in all truth, we are going to go beyond this, but you will for sure get some problems where this is plain and simply all you're asked to do. And you want to capitalize on that. You want to make sure you're getting these right. So let's just do some multiplication here. Yes?
How did you get 14?
The 14 was from the 2 times -7, right? The 2 got multiplied to -7, and you got -14x, right? And then we had the 3 times x here, and you just add them together. Okay? So, look, we're going to do another one just like this. You'd have to distribute the 3x to both, right? What's 3x multiplied to x? 3x squared. And 3x times a -1 is a -3x. Then we're going to multiply a +1 to both. And 1 times x is a +1x. 1 times -1, plain and simply, is a -1. So it's just this distributing. And then you just have to say, can you combine your like terms? -3x plus a 1x becomes a -2x. And there are no other like terms that you can put together. So the good thing is this is, in fact, review. This is stuff that you've done before. Okay, we doing okay? All right. Now look, when you look down below, though, these problems can seem to be way, way more involved. And in all truth, compared to what you just did, they are. You know, it says write the function in standard form. Standard form is what you saw yesterday. And you'll get some standard form graphs that you're going to revisit today in just a little bit. But look, if you had y is equal to ax squared plus bx plus c, that's everything where you don't have any multiplication to do. You've got a number in front of x squared plus a number in front of x plus a constant. That's what you want to do with number 3. Plain and simply, number 3, you're going to have to expand and multiply and make all of this work out. And just like in the order of operations, you always do things in parentheses first, then you do exponents. Guys, when you have something like example 3, you first have to deal with x plus 3 squared. Now, imagine that you had a little brother, a little sister, a little cousin, and they're in elementary school, maybe they're in 5th grade. They're all upset because they were sick and they missed the lesson on squaring. And they come up to you and they say, hey, I'm really confused. I don't know how to do this. Somebody brought the worksheet home and I've never seen that before. How on earth do you square? 7 squared, what would you tell your little friend to do? You'd say, do what? Multiply by itself, right? 7 times 7. That's what's going to happen right here. X plus 3 squared looks like it's way more complicated, and it is to a point, but really all you're going to do is take x plus 3 and multiply it to itself. And we're going to deal with that first. Now, this squaring is really multiplication, some algebraic multiplication. So what I've highlighted is in all truth really just like problem number 1 or problem number 2. So I'm going to take my x and FOIL it. I still have a 2 out in front. I've got these big brackets out here. But x times x is x squared. X times a 3 would get me 3x. 3 times x would be right in here as I distribute the 3. Also, 3 times 3 is a plus 9. So for every one of these problems, guys, somewhere you're going to do some algebraic multiplication. You're going to FOIL. Okay, well then what? You can look inside these brackets and say, now wait a minute, when I FOILed before, I'd combine my like terms. Please combine your like terms now while everything is smaller. Sometimes kids ask if they could just distribute the 2 out in front. And believe it or not, you could. You can definitely do that. But look, if you're going to combine like terms anyway, combine them when they're smaller. You're more likely not to make silly mistakes that way. Work with smaller numbers. You're going to have more success. Then, yeah, there is a 2 out in front. And the 2 will double everything. You're going to distribute that too. So you'll get 2x squared plus a 12x plus an 18, and then plus the 5. Notice what I didn't multiply the 2 to. I didn't multiply 2 to the 5 outside of the brackets. And that's something very, very important to bring up. Finally, you could take 18 and 5, and if you combine 18 and 5, you'll add up to 23. And then you're done. So even in this type of a problem, guys, yes, it's more complicated, but I'll tell you the truth. It's really just the same exact thing you were just doing. And once you get a good foundation on FOILing, you're going to be A-okay. Let's take a look at example 4. Yeah.
How'd you get 12 and 18?
By the multiplying of 2. 2 got multiplied to x squared, 2 gets multiplied to 6, 2 gets multiplied to 9. Right? Okay, so we're going to see something very similar right there for number 4. First things first, you want to realize, hey, I have to deal with this multiplication, this algebra first. So tell you what, I'm going to rewrite this with 3 and put some big brackets here and do the FOILing right now. You're always going to have to FOIL somewhere in this problem. So I'm going to take x times x, that's x squared. X times negative 6 is a negative 6x. Negative 4 times x is a negative 4x. And finally, negative 4 times negative 6 is a plus 24. So that's just like number 1 or number 2, where you just multiply everything out. I'm temporarily just keeping that 3 out in front. We're going to deal with that in a minute. And then I'll tell you what, at some point you want to combine like terms. And you might as well combine them now. Negative 6x and minus 4x would add up to negative 10x. But right now, this is the question that we just answered a moment ago. You still have that number out in front, and you have to distribute that everywhere to this FOILing. You got to take a 3 and multiply it to each individual part. So this becomes 3x squared. 3 times negative 10 becomes negative 30x. And 3 times 24, you could work out to be 72. And guys, this is really what you're going to be doing for part of your worksheet today. One more of this type, and the only reason why I want to bring this up is to remind you, very importantly, that when you see a negative out in front, what number is really out in front there? A negative 1. And the squaring, x minus 1 is what is multiplied to itself. And then we'll have a minus 3 outside over here. So yeah, there is some foiling. The x minus 1 gets multiplied to itself. There is still a number out in front. This time it's a negative 1. And tell you what, we're just going to do some foiling right here. So x times x will get us x squared. X times negative 1 would get you negative 1x. Negative 1 times x is negative 1x. Negative 1 times negative 1 is a plus 1. And at this point, you want to combine your like terms. You're going to have to do that at some point anyway. A negative 1x and a negative 1x will combine to a negative 2x. And at this point, we're super close to finishing up. The number out in front of your brackets, hey, you want to multiply that into all three parts. So you'll get negative 1x squared. Negative 1 times a negative 2 becomes a plus 2x. And negative 1 times 1 is negative 1. Notice again, I did not multiply negative 1 to negative 3. Okay? One more thing we have to do is combine our like terms. Negative 1 minus 3 will become a negative 4. So, just finishing this up, you could leave this as negative 1x squared plus 2x minus 4. Of course, you could just write that